Hey everybody, I'm Evan Tank. I'm a senior product designer here at Innovatemap, and we are a digital product agency that helps companies of all sizes dream, design, and scale digital products and services. Today we're going to be talking about the difference between user experience, user interface, and product design from the perspective of a product-led company.
So what is the difference between product design, user interface design, and user experience design? I'm going to start by breaking down what are probably the two most common terms in the digital product space: user interface design versus user experience design. Now, what a lot of designers at tech companies do is user interface design. Most tech companies have some sort of user interface designer, or at least someone who has designed their interface. And what that means is that someone has spent time and effort focusing on the look and feel of the product. So user interface design focuses heavily on that look and feel. If you're wondering what I mean by user interface, it's what literally that person is seeing on the screen. They make decisions about the fonts, layouts, patterns, and colors in the product, the different interactions that are involved, which can be anything from what happens when you press a button to how a form field is outlined when you begin to type in it. They create clickable prototypes and make sure the designs are ready to hand over to development team so they can be equipped to build it exactly like the designs, while also focusing on how the designs will look on different screens and the overall responsiveness of the product. And last, if they are truly dedicated to their craft, and if they have enough time to do so, they build out any animations that may happen in between the transitions of the screens. A lot of the times, a UI designer is translating something from a wireframe into a high-fidelity prototype and making sure that the look and feel of it is polished and clean. So, a good example of an app with a beautiful user interface design is the Hulu app. It has great imagery with full-screen photography on every page and nice visuals and icons throughout. When you transition from categories, the colors adapt to reflect the selected category, and there's a really nice frame around the screen the whole time. The UI designer on this application obviously paid extra close attention to all the visual details, and it really is a great looking app. The problem is, when you actually try to use it, it's kind of a nightmare. It's difficult to navigate, it's hard to find what you want to find, and the hierarchy of information doesn't really make a lot of sense. The categories are confusing and overlapping, and there are different interaction patterns that takes a pretty steep learning curve to understand how to use. It's a beautiful app, but it's a frustrating one to use. And these frustrations are all symptoms of what we refer to as the user experience of the product. So when we say user experience, what we really mean is focusing heavily on that user. It's all about delivering value to the user, focusing on what they want, what they need, their goals, and then making sure all those things are accomplished and delivered easily and intuitively. So what does it mean to focus on the user? Well, it means paying extra close attention to the usability of the product as a whole. And to do this, they meticulously break down the different personas that are going to be using the product, actually go out and talk to those users and make sure the workflows and the goals that they're trying to accomplish are accounted for and anticipated. They make sure the information architecture of the product makes sense to those personas. So is the first thing that the user sees on the page what they're expecting to see? Can they easily find the actions that they need to take? And does the product guide them through the correct flow of information in an intuitive way? And even the actual content and copywriting of the application. Does the language that's being used make sense to the users? If they initiate an action in the product by pressing a button, will it do what they're expecting it to do? And finally, the user experience design never stands alone on itself. It's really just another layer of considerations added on top of the user interface design. So it's impossible to design one without the other. Therefore, a UX designer almost always is the product's UI designer as well. But saying your product is easy to use is like a chef saying her food is edible. Usability and accomplishing user goals are table stakes in digital products these days. If you don't do those things right, you won't even have a foot in the door. So, if a beautiful and usable design is expected in modern digital products, what does it take for design to truly be a differentiator when building a product these days? In a sense, a product is the vehicle to make the business succeed. So for this to happen, a designer needs to incorporate solving the business goals and challenges into every design decision they make. This is what we at Innovatemap consider to be a product designer with a capital P. It's about delicately balancing the user's goals with the business goals and making sure that both are accomplished in the simplest, most intuitive way possible. Some examples of business goals that a product can help accomplish are adoption. How easy do we make it to get in the door? Conversion, how do we get them to dig in deeper? Retention, how do we make sure they don't abandon us? How do we keep delivering value? And shareability and growth, how likely is someone to tell their friend about it? What makes a product designer different is that these are the lenses that they are looking at every new design through. It's not just a marketer taking another pass on the designs after a wireframe is put in place. These goals are part of the conversation from the get-go. Whether it's building a new feature or redesigning a current user flow, these considerations are in the back of a product designer's mind all the time. So how does this work in practice? There are really two main common use cases when it comes to product design. One, a new product being built from scratch. These are usually the startups that come to us with just an idea that they want to bring to life, or it could be a tech-enabled company that wants to spin off a new product or service to help their business grow in a new way. These companies usually want to validate this idea with product designs through research and a pitch deck before building an MVP to launch their business. Second, an existing product that already exists needs to be renovated or enhanced. These are a lot of the scale-ups who need to scale their business and the current product won't allow it, or they need some new features to help them grow into a new market or better serve their users' needs. Also, this could be the tech-enabled companies that know they have a really kind of ugly, unusable UI and they want it renovated to help reduce churn. As long as you have a digital product, it doesn't matter whether you're a startup, scale-up, or a tech-enabled company, or even where you are in the various stages of company maturity, it'd almost always be beneficial to get a product designer's input. I'm quickly going to walk through a couple of examples of how we brought to life those definitions that we just discussed. Costello was a startup that came to us with an idea and a napkin sketch, and we worked with them in the early phases to help solidify a product direction and equip them for their first launch. This included validating the idea, workshopping and iterating on product designs and workflows, and then ultimately helping them talk about and socialize that idea that we sprung out of an MVP. While working with them, we did research that helped them define the personas and user goals, design product concepts that painted the vision for the product and what problems it was going to be solving for the users, while then breaking down those concepts into manageable MVP that provided immediate value to their users and customers. This helped them equip their sales deck and helped them also build out positioning and messaging for their product as well as help their product team hit the ground running with a scope of valuable work. Another startup that came to us but had different goals in mind was DriverReach. They had an existing MVP that was successful, but they knew it had a poor user experience. They were ready to grow their business, but their current product wouldn't allow them to do so. So they needed to renovate it before moving into the next phase of their company growth. It needed to be more useful, but more importantly, it needed to be easier to scale and convert users into the platform. And they wanted to help them achieve that within the product and with free trials. So we helped them with concepts for a redesign of their current product, which improved the usability for their workflows and helped make the product more scalable for the future. After settling on a foundation for the future of the product, we then began to help them with feature enhancements based on the research that we did that helped them add more value with their current users and even grow into new customer segments. After all these designs were validated, we then worked really closely with their development team to equip them with the tools and the assets that they needed in order to build these designs to exact pixel perfection. Another renovation project that we worked on was with Stanley Security's product teams. They had an existing product that wasn't getting the adoption it deserved, and it was causing unnecessary work for their support teams. They knew the usability was poor, which is why people weren't using it, and that it was having trouble standing up to the competition from a feature standpoint. So we help them do research in order to understand the most valuable workflows and redesign their product to make it more usable, easier to adopt and convert, and reduce customer support issues. We then help them enhance the feature set to add value to their users and help gain market share. All of this while working closely with the development team to fill in gaps and equip them to build the right thing. So to recap, in these examples, we didn't really just focus our efforts on making the designs usable and look great, although they did, but really we approached each challenge through the lens of solving the business's unique goals of adoption, conversion, retention, and growth. All right, that's all for today. Remember to sign up at the bottom of the page for Innovatemap emails and share with your friends and coworkers. Thanks for joining.